One Sunday morning, we're filming people arriving for the service at Folkwella Lutheran Church. The congregation, mostly female, gathers one by one. Pastor Giddings strains to be heard over a loud commotion outside the church. Two young farmers have found a calf that was wounded by an angry farmer who surprised it eating crop rice. Everyone recognizes the calf as belonging to Carboy, the town chief. The two men take it to Carboy's house. Once again, ordinary farmers and the cattle owners are in conflict. Carboy is asked what he's going to do. This dispute, this palaver, isn't anything we can air right now, he says. There's nothing to discuss. All we can do is to call in somebody to look into it. I can't hear a case where I'm one of the parties. We'll take it to the clan chief. Carboy tells the people to put the calf inside a nearby unfinished house to shade it. He goes off to the clan chiefs. Someone has cut my calf, and the people brought it to me. The tail was cut, Carboy explains. How badly was the tail cut? So badly that it's hanging off. The calf's right here in town, so you can go to see for yourself. Is that the calf? The clan chief asked. Yes, that's the one. The clan chief speaks of the earlier time when his father was living and another beast had been wounded. All right, says the clan chief, I'll reach the matter to Paramount Chief Wual. He'll probably send to the county seat for an ordeal operator and use an ordeal to find out who did this. The clan chief's messenger leaves to take the clan chief's request to the paramount chief. Carboy's anger subsides somewhat. He's momentarily content, knowing that action is underway. At the place where the clan chief and his friends are building a pavilion to dry peanuts, the discussion about the case continues. The usually affable Suaquella Jow says nothing. Will they be able to settle the case before the ordeal operator comes? They all know that an ordeal is a ritual for supernaturally determining guilt or innocence. In the Sasswood ordeal, now outlawed, suspects drink a poison. The guilty die. The innocent vomit the poison. In the hot oil ordeal and the hot knife ordeal, the guilty are burned, but the innocent are not. The ordeal operator's ritual power works through the mechanism of the ordeal to select the guilty person. However, ordeals are seldom used in Folkwella. Most disputes are settled through the use of witnesses and cross-examination. Someone else observes that the cut on the calf's tail looks as if it had been made by a hooked machete. The men ask which of the people who farm near the place where the calf was cut has a machete with a hook on the end. Perhaps, an elder says, the ordeal won't be necessary. Perhaps the guilty person will confess or give himself away. As the other men in Suaquelajal measure off lengths of wood, everyone thinks about the ordeal. On the day set for the ordeal, 10 days after the calf was wounded, the paramount chief arrives, and we're almost out of color film. We use black and white.
On the Warabara, the men gather for battle. The day is fine, neither cold and wet, nor too hot and dry. The whole ridge is for fighting, and both sides know it well. Wayak relaxes, waiting for his comrades and the enemy to signal their readiness by drawing close enough to fire. Only Mike Mo, who acts as leader, is especially concerned. The enemy badly wants the death that will restore the balance which they lost almost 3 weeks before. With so many men firing such a quantity of arrows, there is always a chance that one of the many wounds they are certain to inflict will bring about the death they want so much. Finally, Mike Mo's urgings take effect, and his men withdraw. It is customary that both sides, after fighting hard for a period of time, withdraw to nurse wounds, smoke cigarettes, and review the course of events. The arrows are not poisoned, but they are barbed and notched so as to break off on impact. One young warrior, pained but also pleased by his wound, was lucky that an older man has enough to hold as he works the arrow free. At the salt wells, La Ca is nearly finished, having spent more than 2 hours soaking the shredded parts of the old banana tree. The way home is long, and the tree much heavier with its new cargo of brine. Wayak was worried that so many arrows had found their mark, but most of the others were merely stung into more aggressive action. The enemy fell back, thinking that Wayak's group had been secretly reinforced. Having retreated, there was nowhere for them to go except off the ridge and onto some flat land just in front of their little mountain. There, almost at their own frontier, they turned and resumed fighting. At the end of the ridge, the pursuers caught their breath. Close by the gardens, where their warrior had been killed during a raid only 3 weeks before, the enemy reorganized, knowing there was still time for fighting. As long as there is enough light to see arrows in flight, and barring sudden rain, or what is much rarer, sudden death, a formal battle continues throughout the day. Wayak rests and lets the younger men exert themselves on the skirmish line. In this, its new phase, the battle is supervised by Nilik, who sends a fresh group to back up the skirmishers. Past water-worn patches of white sand, a wounded enemy is carried home on the shoulders of his friends. Nilik, not yet convinced the enemy was content to end the fighting, keeps a watchful eye, as do two young warriors who, a moment before, sought in vain to kill each other.
Most of the people who died in this village were buried because their relatives didn't have money to cremate them. But under pressure to cremate everyone before a huge island-wide ceremony, these villagers decided to pool their resources and hold this group cremation for all their dead relatives.
Slave.
We showed participants videotapes of our footage so they'd get the pleasure of seeing themselves, and so we could find out what they had to say about the images. I edited bits of the conversations that people had with Linda Connor as they watched the videos. And from these, we constructed a commentary.
Jadi makumpulan magaya malupauman aja luang dasa rombongan apa alih gagayan yang ada nak gagayan kemudian gemak bebarengan cak luang dasa jang bojang nyanan suboy bapak gaya dung asa bahasa nyanan hitung mayit adong lah telu adong lah pat adong lah hukud adong sing ane sing man sing pesu batang royong gayan oke ane tetlu yani kuda mayite telu kuda keturunan makanya selai tali ukur.
First, we showed our videos to Jiro Tapakan and her family, because Jiro is Linda's closest Balinese friend. Jiro is a village healer.
Yen yani mati maklut lung tiban deng blau apena. Yen besliwatan kebus beten maklu.
Ani tanamoto yantan ngabenan.
Ukah yang beten dogen sing ngidang bangun. Sing tadi tuntun sing lingyang sing jatilah ditu so kalau jak boleh sing dadi maka ada anak sakit jadi gelem tuna sanga jadi andi kutang dari bapun agak maben gitu agak mabenan.
Effigies are made of the dead about a week before the cremation.
Nana ajain aku. Kayak kan nih, sini bu. Solas. Opa, terus nak putus.
Anda malu.
Ini bom sulasi.
Sulasi.
Tengah. Ada kebintek. Coba dah.
Oh, antiang. Tebel sana. Mencet.
Patau ni pesukure.
Enak sekali. Apa yang di
Bukan lem,
Naik jaga ni.
lem yang
Anak muda tu.
durian ada masih anu ni.
Anak muda kita dah di saya. Ranjit tu.
Kenang ini mana? Kan kali ini dalam tangan
Ida Bagas is another person we showed our videos. He's from a coastal village and from a Brahmana family, the traditional priests and scholars of Bali. Ida Bagas and his wife bring the shrouds he made to wrap the effigies of Jiro's husband and 5 of her husband's relatives from the northern town of Buleleng.
Ini cara mati ini. Ini pengulung ini aman nih.
Jadi kena malu adan. Ini nakunin madan, baru beleleng gitu. Adan. Dan tuh tapi adan ini tuh. Tenawang adan no. Aduh, kok jadi mau. Apaan ya tuh? Itu jadi tulang. Mimin bang saudara.
Dari uang kepeng itu, uang kepeng itu pengawak-ngawak itu,
Pengawak.
Kalau mayatnya sudah tidak ada, fisiknya itu sudah tidak ada, sekarang dibuatkan pengawak-ngawak istilah. Pengawak-ngawak itu seolah-olah itu badannya itu, proteke itu. Sekarang ini diupacarai yang sama seperti memberikan upacara pada badan kasarnya.
Dari kan jadi.
Kami diterima di sana bukan oleh jerunya sendiri, tapi oleh masyarakat sana kan, gitu. Nah, cuma menurut adat sana khususnya, yang mengantarkan upacaranya kalau di Bali yang lainnya kecuali khusus Pulau Sari itu mestinya pendeta, gitu. Tapi khusus untuk desa Tembuku karena menurut sejarahnya dia mempunyai sejarah untuk satu kelompok keluarganya itu dia memang tidak berani mempergunakan pendeta, gitu. Jadi macam saya dianggap Brahmanawala yang juga bisa menyelenggarakan hal ini, gitu.
Asulase.
Men kengken artinya kaki dadong patok.
Oh, itu artinya kepala Banten. Lihat Banten.
This is Nang Selassie. He's a farmer. Selassie made and decorated the towers that were used to carry the effigies to the burial grounds, and also the towers used to carry other effigies to the beach.
Nang Sulasi, di dia melajah anek ini. Di dia melajah.
Dari Bapak Kiai udah kita bisa kayak gitu.
Oh, bapak ini bisa.
Tengah menentukan ngerancang wadah tuh dapat dilihat bisa masukkan dalam pikiran dan bisa dilaksanakan.
Menjadi bo keto alihnya kena lain di banja lain.
Saya di Andar Bani.
Dan Bani.
Saya apa kita betlah pada dia mana. Andar betlah.
Betlah.
Nah,
sebagai napi.
Nah, secara telah tukang atau
tukang mendaki. Iluang tiban tugas ngaben triki. Kengken anak singnya keto ngali tulang.
Menjadi misalnya memang tiangnya bakat aneh kuburannya itu. Menurut dia mendue Wo atau peka hijau alih terus tawang kubur. Sudah bertahun-tahun.
Sangkal nu makelo, bo makelo.
Ada bakat, ada alih, ada sing tadi beli sangat. Itu menurut adan pengabenane lama nyamur si sing tadi ngaga roh nege malih. Atul ngade suci roh ne doan apa mana kan alih.
Saja.
Ya bo penget tu kotor lina kan.
But sometimes the lion goes too far. He breaks the pact with the herdsman and attacks a cow that is not sick. He kills for the pleasure of killing. When that happens, the Fulani send for the last of the great hunters who killed the lion with bow and arrow, the Gao. The Gao people live on the banks of the Goruol. They are a sedentary people who live on the extreme fringes of nomad life. They raise millet and can sometimes be found gathered in farming villages like Bedari because they have had to kill a lion during the millet season. A lion's skin is stretched out to dry in the center of the camp. In his nose is the baza, the thong of the captured animal. The animal's skull is on the ground beside the skin. And here are the great hunters, Tahiru, Isiaka, Bedari, Melaki, Wangari, and Isiaka Musa, who is also a musician. Each of them has killed from 50 to 100 lions with bow and arrow. After each kill, the old woman, Hawa Amadou, sings the praises of these hunters, of these men who know how to fight the lion face to face, and who can drag a living lion by his tail to the village. She sings the praises of Tahiru Koro, the chief of the hunters, and of Isiaka, the youngest hunter and the bravest of them all. She chants the praises of the ancestors of these hunters, who were so brave that they could fill their pipes with buffaloes. All of the Gao children, the young hunters, practice with their bows every day. They shoot at a bush, which is 50 feet away. The bush is a lion. Thus do they live the year round, the lions, the Bela, the Fulani herdsmen, and the hunters, all in the land of nowhere. In order to hunt the lion, the hunter first needs a fighting bow. Wangari and Tahiru have gone into the bush where the lion lives in order to cut the branches of the fare tree. They choose a branch which is already in the shape of a bow. Wangari raises the bow and presents it to the bush. Look, beasts of the bush, here is my new bow. Here is your new enemy.